Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Wednesday, February 19th, 2020. I have like 8 trashed episodes. It's been a while. We're gonna try to get through one without devolving. It's just been a rough couple weeks. I don't really know why. Like, work's fine, home's fine. Going to Philly was 98% fine. But like, anxiety's just been at like an 11, and despite being able to say, hey, everything's fine, this is just a brain chemistry issue and we'll get through it. It's still been really difficult. But anyway, we're not talking about all that. That is my excuse for why I haven't put up an episode in like, I don't know, what are we up to? Like 2.5 weeks? Some trash like that. But today we're going to talk about the Mage market buy now, pay later thing. So, I want to start out by getting some things just out in the open. One, I'm not in any way sponsored or affiliated with, sponsored by or affiliated with Mage Market. I don't even know if I still have the app on my phone. I had downloaded it because they seem to be offering a product similar to Delver's Lens, which is the app husband uses to catalog our whole collection. And my only gripe about Delver's Lens is he generally does all the cataloging. Like, he's the collector and he's all organized and shit. But the only way to get the list from his phone to mine is for him to send me basically the file. And I have to completely uninstall Delver's Lens, reinstall, so I clear all the local files. I'm sure there's a way to mass delete, but it's just easier to uninstall and reinstall. And then open his backup file that he sent me. So, like, as progression's made, I can't sync with him. And it also means that, oh darn, I can't really help with the cataloging unless I use his phone. Anyway, this is my only gripe about that app. I actually really love Delver's Lens. But I downloaded Mage Market, or it was Mage at the time. See if we could get the same satisfaction in what it did, but also be able to share the list between us, like log in online. And I saw it was like, buying and selling and everything, and I was like, okay. I never really got much of a chance to experiment with it. I know a lot of people have been very happy with it. I know when I signed up for my account, I got a DM, like personal DM from the guy you often see like being the face of it. I'm pretty sure in the system his name was Peer, because it was like, oh, you got a message from Peer from Mage Market, like P-E-E-R. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got some kind of bot message notification. I went and looked, and no, it actually seemed to be a personal communication. So that was kind of cool. Felt all warm and fuzzy and shit. So I have nothing against them, but I'm also, like, not in their pocket or anything. And I will say, because there's personal interaction, and that makes me feel a little warm and fuzzy towards them, I want to believe that this program is not intended to be predatory, but it kind of is. So, Ali Antrazi put out, and like, I responded and communicated on the thread and everything, so I'm not like, low-key calling him out. No. And I can understand how some people look at it this way. That he's like, so how is it less irresponsible to basically pay for... Now, I'm paraphrasing, of course. This is not exactly how he put it. This is how I interpreted. I believe he specifically asked, how is it different paying $30 to $60 a month for a card rental account for cards that you will never own than, financing a Magic deck, right? And I can understand the perspective there. And I feel like it's the perspective of somebody who has always been responsible with credit and never was young and stupid like I was. Like I've talked before, I'm pretty sure, about how I'm not responsible enough to have credit cards, so I just don't. I do have like a Torrid store card and an Ulta store card. So basically I can buy everything that I buy from those places when it's on sale and then pay it off with the next paycheck. Like, I don't make huge purchases. It's just, a little bit here and there. And, it's like, Torrid's like, hey, we're having a buy one, get two free. I'm not shitting you. They have this sale from time to time on clearance stuff. And I'm like, well, fuck, I could use a couple more shirts, or let's see what you got in clearance jeans. All right, they don't have pockets because, they're women's jeans, but fine. It's fine. But, I'm really careful about how I use them. And, if there is still a balance on the card, I will not charge more. I don't care how good the sale is. And so, I have to impose very strict limits on myself. Otherwise, it gets out of hand. They keep raising my credit limit on these cards. I think I'm up to, $650 limit on one and, $800 on the other. And I'm like, nope, never. Just not happening. Because I got in trouble with credit cards when I was a kid. When I was, in my, early adult stages. I had a Capital One card. Now, the limit on it, I want to say it was only $500. And I was going to college at the time, and put a car repair on it. That was a mistake. The debt definitely way outlasted that car. And very quickly it got charged up, and very quickly I fell behind on payments, and I ended up defaulting on that card. And by the time it was all said and done, what I actually ended up paying them was about $5,000 for the $500 I charged. Now, I'm not oh, that asshole. No, I mean, I was young, I was stupid, I did stupid things, I made stupid choices, I lost my job, this shit happens. I made decisions that went awry. But, of course, we don't really get a lot of education on these things. Just how, 18%? If you're oh, I only get to keep 18% of my paycheck? That number sounds really tiny, right? I actually think that the credit card interest on that card was 22%. Which still sounds like a really low number until you start seeing it hit. And then you have fees for late payments or lack of payment. And this all, just keeps fucking snowballing. They actually really make out on it. And to the point that, I defaulted on the card. They, sent me collections notice and was basically pay us or we're taking you to civil court and we'll have your wages garnished. And we scraped the money together and I called up the collection company and I worked out a payment plan, and I had monthly auto draft payments until this debt was gone. And it took me I want to say it was 18 months of these auto payments to just get it taken care of. And right after the default was cleared, it was 3 months later, I get a credit card offer from fucking Capital One. And I'm like, why would you give me credit again? And it's not until you really start getting into more learning about how they basically just made money off of this, a shit ton of money. We're talking over 100% return on the money they lent me. Because, yeah, by the time it got to the collection company probably bought my debt for, like, I don't know, $2,500, $3,000, something like that, for a much lower number than they assessed me. So Capital One already got paid, and they still got paid exponentially more than I use. And then this collection company gets to, try to recoup the debt. John Oliver on Last Week Tonight actually did a fantastic episode once on how medical debt works in this fashion, which is even crazier when you think about, the debt you accrued for life-saving treatment and, like, how all this noise works. So it's not until you've been in that position that you can really understand just how fucking badly this can go. So my kind of counter to this, like, why is card rental inherently better than financing it, is if you look at the card rental fee, like, I got my ManaTrader's account. By the way, if you're thinking about signing up for a ManaTrader's account, just be aware that they are going to require you to send them an image of either your driver's license, state ID card, or passport for this account. I was not particularly pleased about that, but by that point they had already taken the money, and my bank's actually pretty good about, when there were fraudulent charges in my account, just giving my money back and saying, okay, we'll burn the cards and send you new ones. And also, I still have free credit monitoring because my information was breached back in that giant security breach that happened with the feds. Because I was the dependent of husband when he joined the Guard. All of my information was in his paperwork, which so much of that shit got breached. So I have free credit monitoring. So if shit goes sideways, it'll get sorted out pretty quick. But I am going to be watching, and yeah, if anything happens, I'll be sure to let y'all know. But anyway, so I have my card rental account now. I played a league last night. I missed like my first 4 attack steps, and a few more sprinkled here and there throughout because I'm getting used to the Moto client. Got my first snarky Moto message. Joke's on you, Americano. I knew I was terrible already. But in any case, how are these things different? Well, me paying for this rental account really isn't much different than me paying for a WoW subscription, or an EQ subscription, or Netflix, or Hulu, or Disney Plus, or any of those kind of things. I mean, it's slightly different in that there are limitations on how much I can borrow for how long. I guess it's more akin to the old AOL subscriptions that were for like 30 hours of internet access a month or whatever. But it's similar. I am paying basically a subscription fee to allow me to play this game. And when you look at how a lot of those MMORPGs have gone to this, you can either pay us a subscription fee or you can use the microtransaction model. It's a pretty straight comparison. I could either dump a bunch of money once and have this one configuration to play the game, or I can instead pay a subscription fee to have access to a wider range of the game, but with the understanding of if I'm not paying that subscription fee, I lose access to all this stuff. Whereas financing a Magic deck, basically, if you would never encourage somebody to whip out their Discover card to pay for their Magic deck, then you wouldn't encourage somebody to use this credit system through Mage Market. Now, I haven't personally looked at the terms. I'm just going by things that I saw mentioned as terms today. What the shit is going on here? You like a police escort? Whatever. Not my problem. 8% interest rate, which again, sounds really small, but actually it's not. And that there are some hidden administrative and servicing fees that aren't readily apparent. And again, it's kind of like student loans, right? When I took out my first batch of student loans when I was first going to school, I had to do my entrance counseling that basically is like, hey, you're borrowing this money, right? You're going to have to pay it back. Oh, okay. And that's pretty much the extent of it. And then you do the exit counseling when your 6-month grace period's up. And they're like, so again, like, you have to pay this back, right? Yeah, I got it. All right, cool. But what you don't see, like, while you're going to school and you're on in-school deferment, all of your not subsidized loans are getting bigger. And the fact that you never get out of federal student loans, like, ever. You can declare bankruptcy and you are still responsible for paying back those federal student loans. It's kind of a shitty system. As far as you borrowed that money with the agreement you would pay it, like, okay, cool. Like, glad you have never fucked up in your life. I mean, I get it, but at the same time, if you're not aware how, like, interest compounds and how this shit actually works, you're like, okay, I'm going to, finance this $1,000 modern deck, and in the end, I'm going to pay $1,180. No, that's not how interest works. So, I think, at least here in the States, there's not a whole lot of education on how this shit works. So, you're marketing to a demographic that already has some sketchy life priorities. Like, I'm not trying to dunk on anybody here, but, you see some of the stories of people that are like, yeah, I quit my job to go to this pro tour because they wouldn't give me off. Like, that seems like an awfully permanent solution to, a short-term problem. Like I've mentioned it before, if you go back and watch Todd Anderson's flashback video on SCG, he talks about how there's the one tournament where, like, he really fucking put it all on the line, and luckily it panned out for him and he ended up winning. But, like, blew off his job. He goes into, like, the position he put himself in going to that event. And again, we're hearing about it because it paid off for him. He won the event, he got his first, like, real big payout, and it set everything square and everything. But we wouldn't be hearing about it if he scrubbed and, like, just kind of fucked himself for 5 years trying to undo the damage he did there. So we already have this demographic that, like, when I go to a tournament, I'm not expecting to do well. I am looking at my $60 as an entertainment fee. That is my fee to go force people to interact with me for a few hours. It's not, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna day 2 and, I'm gonna cash, and if I'm gonna make top 16, so that means I get this amount of money, which is X times my entry fee, and yada, yada, yada. No, that's not how I view this. But there are plenty of people out there that do, and I've said before, like, do not spend your rent money on going to a Magic tournament, because it's an inherently bad decision. But you already have a demographic that does shit like that because they're chasing the stream. And I get it, we spend 18 years telling kids to pursue their passions and don't stop dreaming, and you wish and you fight for it and you go after it and keep on believing until they hit real world age, and then we're like, go to college for a real major. What the fuck do you mean you're a theater major or a fine arts major or a graphic design major? Like, no, this is bad, don't do that. Go for computer science or law or criminal justice or, whatever quote-unquote real major and go get a real job. So sometimes it takes some of us a little longer to figure out that, all right, you got to find the way to fit as best as you can in rank and file. And it's especially harder when you see people who are making a living off of this. Like, you know, you see the Ross Merriams who, like, Ross Merriam professionally plays Magic the Gathering and creates Magic the Gathering content. That is his livelihood. The MPL members, like, I don't know about Brad Nelson anymore. Apparently he got scooped up by Watsy. What? But, like, Huey Jensen, Reed Duke, you know, even, like, these top-end grinders, like, you know, you look at Allie Warfield, it's not always apparent that Allie Warfield actually has another source of income. Now, I don't know how much that income is because she's in the early stages of her career, and, you know, as you're building up, you tend to be on the short end of the stick there. But she, I believe recently finished school. She may still be working towards the degree and doing, like, the internship stage. Oh, no, I don't follow things with her terribly close, but, like, I know she does counseling. So she's not solely a professional Magic player that supports herself with Magic content. But Emma Handy, as far as I'm aware, does, between content creation, tournament playing, and now doing commentary. And I remember talking to Vintage. Vintage, I guess, has done some Vintage commentary. And, you know, he said he doesn't really compete at that level anymore. And, of course, the reason I call him Vintage is he is a former Vintage world champion. But he, you know, he doesn't really compete. He more does commentary. And he said, you know, it's guaranteed money that, you know, pays for the trip and everything. And the rank he'd have to place in order to come out better than what they'll pay him to go do commentary is just, you know, there's so little guarantee that he'll get there. And in addition, he actually also has a completely not Magic related source of income. People look at John Finkel as like the epitome. Well, the thing is John Finkel made a lot of his money in poker. He was a high-end poker player there for some time, may still be. But he also, like, worked in the finance industry. So you see these people out there who are living the dream, so to speak, making money off of this passion and being able to support themselves and everything, and everybody chases that. Well, there can only be so many of them. There are what? What's the last count? Like 20 million Magic players worldwide? Not all of them can be supported. You know, it's like Sage has come to the firm conclusion she wants to be a YouTuber when she grows up. Because, you know, it's really not that hard, Mom. And I'm like, but it is. And she's like, well, look at these YouTubers. I just kind of watch do stupid shit. And it's like, okay, great. But you know how long they had to work to build up that following? Like, not everybody can do this. Not everybody's going to get the view threshold needed and the support from followers needed to support themselves. So I'm not trying to crush your dream. I'm saying, hey, you know, if that's something you're seriously considering, why don't you look at pursuing education in some facet of that, like, you know, AV or even business and marketing, so that you can serve yourself in that pursuit, but also have marketable skill to, you know, find yourself a decent job while you're, you know, trying to build your audience and your following. So, in any case, yeah, I don't recommend putting your Magic deck on a credit card. I don't recommend paying for your tournament on a credit card. Like, it's one thing if it's like, well, if I use this credit card to buy my, flights, I get frequent flyer miles and shit, so I'm gonna put it on there, wait until the next statement, and pay off the flights and everything. Like, I have the money to do it, but I'm a responsible credit user, so I'm just going to use this for the benefits they give me and not let the balance sit and accrue interest. Okay, that's one thing, but I do not have the funds to do this, so I'm going to go ahead and just put it on the credit card and make it later me's problem. Later you's going to be pretty pissed off and pretty hosed. So, while I don't believe the intent was necessarily predatory, the end result very much will be. It is very highly likely it will be. And for all you responsible credit users out there, cool, good for you. But the problem is there's a lot of people that are going to get roped into this and not really quite understand the long-reaching ramifications. So that's my take on it. As always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you'll hear from me in less than 2 weeks.